police disbanded protest camps and arrested dozens of pro-Palestinian activists at Massachusetts Institute of Technology and University of Pennsylvania on Friday in the latest crackdowns on protesters shaking U.S. campuses. Philadelphia officers in riot gear pushed reporters away from the encampment at the University of Pennsylvania before dismantling down tents and disposing of the possessions of protesters in a trash truck. This is what the student newspaper reported. Approximately 33 individuals were arrested on the Ivy League campus. This is as per Penn's Public Safety Department. A similar scene unfolded simultaneously at MIT near Boston, where student journalists reported that riot police arrested at least 10 student protesters before demolishing the encampment and disposing of their belongings. The United Nations General Assembly overwhelmingly supported a Palestinian bid for full UN membership, recognizing its qualification to join. During the General Assembly session, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations sharply criticized the UN Charter in his speech.
In favor 143, against 9, abstentions 25.
The United Nations General Assembly overwhelmingly backed a Palestinian bid to become a full UN member Friday, recommending the UN Security Council consider the matter favorably. The vote serves as a global survey of support after the United States vetoed the idea in the UN Security Council a month prior. The Palestinian push for full UN membership comes 7 months into a war between Israel and Palestinian militants Hamas in the Gaza Strip, and as Israel is expanding settlements in the occupied West Bank, which the UN considers to be illegal.
We want peace. We want freedom.
Palestinian UN Ambassador Riyad Mansour spoke to the assembly before the vote.
A yes vote is a vote for Palestinian existence. It is not against any state. It is an investment in peace and thus empowers the forces of peace.
Meanwhile, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Gilad Erdan, who spoke after Mansour, accused the assembly of shredding the UN Charter.
You are shredding the UN Charter with your own hands. Yes, that's what you're doing, shredding the UN Charter. Shame on you.
The vote by the General Assembly Friday does not give the Palestinians full UN membership, but simply recognizes them as qualified to join. An application to become a full UN member first needs to be approved by the 15-member Security Council, and then the General Assembly. If the measure is again voted on by the Council, it is likely to face the same fate, a U.S. veto.
The Biden administration briefed Congress stating that while Israel may have violated international standards by failing to protect civilians in Gaza, they haven't found specific instances to justify withholding military aid. The State Department's report acknowledged Israel's capabilities to minimize civilian harm, but expressed concerns over high civilian casualties. However, they cited challenges in verifying information from Gaza and incomplete data from Israel regarding the use of U.S. weapons in alleged human rights violations. The United Nations warned the Biden administration, briefed Congress stating that while Israel may have violated international standards, they haven't found specific instances to justify withholding military aid. On Friday, the United Nations warned that aid for the Gaza Strip could grind to a halt in days as Israeli troops took their ground war with Palestinian fighters into the crowded city of Rafah, a key aid corridor for the famine-threatened Strip. The Rafah crossing from Egypt into Gaza remained one of the last areas through which humanitarian aid could be transferred, but it has been closed since Israeli tanks rolled through it on Monday ahead of their expected attack, which they say will root out the remaining Hamas terrorists in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has defied calls from the US President Joe Biden to refrain from such an attack, saying that Israel has no choice but to go ahead or risk another Hamas attack like the one last October. The US has suspended at least one weapons shipment to Israel over concerns about their potential harm to civilians. They are now considering suspending further transfers amidst Israel's impending offensive in Gaza. In Rafah, beg your pardon. Gaza war has left many homeless and without any access to medical facilities. Palestinian women speaks of her struggle to access dialysis during the ongoing Israel-Hamas war in Gaza.
This is the last hospital left in the Gaza Strip where Saad Zohair can receive kidney dialysis. She used to go to a hospital near her home in Rafah for treatment, but it shut down after Israel's latest offensive. Now, she makes the dangerous journey up the coast with her daughter, Bilal Zohair.
I come with my mother for her dialysis session, and we are suffering a lot. It took us an hour on the road in transportation, and still, one is afraid of the road. It's not safe where we are. They could come in at any second.
Sawad needs kidney dialysis to keep her alive, but there are only 19 machines here, and staff are running around the clock. Saeed Kitab is the head of the kidney department. He says there's barely enough time to sterilize machines between patients.
This is the only remaining hospital for dialysis serving the entire Gaza Strip, serving around 1,000 remaining patients with kidney failure.
Sawad's treatment is supposed to last 4 hours, but she can only have the machine for 2. And no one can say when she will get it again.
They are under a lot of pressure. Everyone from Rafah, Khan Yunis, and Gaza City and Central Gaza are here. They are under a lot of pressure in the hospital. They are doing their best, but still they're under a lot of pressure. It is always in danger.
Israel's assault around Rafah is bringing what's left of the enclave's medical system to its knees, doctors say. It launched its offensive in response to a cross-border attack by Hamas militants on Israel on October 7th. Israel says Hamas militants are hiding in Rafah, where the population has been swelled by hundreds of thousands of Palestinians seeking refuge from bombardments elsewhere.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukrainian forces had been prepared for a new Russian ground assault on the 10th of May on the border of the northeastern Kharkiv region. He also warned that Moscow could send more troops to the area.
Russia started a new wave of offensive actions in this direction. Ukraine met them there with troops, brigades and artillery. It is important to understand that they can increase and bring more forces in this direction. It is a fact, but our military and military commanders were aware of it and assessed its forces in order to meet the enemy with artillery fire.
Russian forces launched a new cross-border offensive into northeastern Ukraine early on Friday. Kyiv announced in what may mark the beginning of a new major operation, imperiling the country's second-largest city of Kharkiv. The assault opens a new front in the war more than 2 years since Russia's full-scale invasion. Fighting in the border areas of the Kharkiv region continued, and Kyiv has sent more forces to the area as reinforcements, the defense ministry said. The Ukrainian defense ministry said the attack was repelled, but that battles of varying intensity are ongoing at several points along the border with reserves deployed.
Russia started a new wave of offensive actions at this direction. Ukraine met them with our troops, brigades and artillery. It is important to understand that they can increase and bring more forces at this direction. It is a fact, but our military and military commanders were aware of it and considered its forces were in order to meet the enemy with artillery fire.
We'll take a quick break now. News and updates continue on the other side. Stay with us.
Can the Trinamool candidate from Baharampur hit the ball out of the park?
50-60 दिन बहुत ज़्यादा बोल रहा हूँ, उससे पहले ही काम दिखने स्टार्ट हो जाएंगे.
Pitted opposite Pathan in Team BJP is Dr. Nirmal Kumar Saha.
The fight is not Adit Chaudhary and Nirmal Saha. The fight between Modi versus Rahul Gandhi.
Yusuf Pathan and Nirmal Saha, two professionals who have switched to politics, are taking on Congress leader Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary. Can one of the first-time politicians end his winning streak?
This and more. Streaming on News9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Golf as a game, it is closest to the game that you call life.
You've got to use your mind. You cannot lose it.
The sharpest person is one who understands his limitations.
खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि खुदा बंदे से पूछे कि तेरी रजा क्या है.
You might have a bad break after a good shot. You might have a good break after a bad shot. But the fact remains, you got to play the ball from where it lies.
Watch Jeev Milkha Singh on Duologue with Barun Das, streaming on News9 Plus.
Welcome back. Donald Trump appeared in court on the 10th of May following Stormy Daniels' testimony about their alleged sexual encounter as prosecutors neared the end of the first ever criminal trial involving a sitting of former US President. The trial began with further cross-examination of Madeleine Westerhout, a former White House aide who testified about checks signed by Trump in the Oval Office and a meeting he had with Cohen during his presidency from 2017 to 2021. Trump announced plans to campaign in nearby New Jersey over the weekend and criticized a gag order imposed by Justice Juan Merchan to limit his public comments about witnesses and jurors in the case. A Florida county sheriff on Thursday released body camera video of a deputy fatally shooting a black airman who had a handgun at his side in his apartment after civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who represents the family, urged officials to release it. More in this report.
Florida police on Thursday released a body camera video of a deputy fatally shooting Robert Fortson, a black airman, in his apartment on May 3rd. The video shows the deputy arriving at an apartment complex in Okaloosa County, where a woman greets him and directs him to apartment 1401.
Which room is it?
1401.
She also tells him that 2 weeks prior, she heard noises from that apartment that sounded like domestic abuse. The video records the deputy twice knocking on the door and saying, "Sheriff's office, open the door."
Sheriff's office, open the door!
In the next part of the video, which Reuters has chosen not to show, Fortson answers the door with a handgun at his side, pointed down, and the unnamed deputy immediately shoots him multiple times. Fortson later died in the hospital. It remained unclear who called law enforcement on the day of the shooting or why.
I need you guys to tell the truth about my son. I need you to get his reputation right.
Yes.
If you have a heart, if you have a niece, a nephew, any young person in your life, tell the truth about my son.
Fortson's family has insisted the deputy, who was investigating a domestic violence complaint, knocked on the wrong door, since the 23-year-old was in the apartment alone. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who is representing the family, said that Fortson was on a FaceTime call with his girlfriend when he heard the deputy's knock.
My baby was shot up.
In a statement issued after the release of the video, Fortson's family said they remained, quote, adamant that the police had the wrong apartment. Upon release of the video, Okaloosa County Sheriff Eric Aiden pushed back on that assertion.
We are aware of a press release and other comments that falsely state our deputy entered the wrong apartment and imply that they burst through the door into Mr. Fortson's residence. Those statements are inaccurate as shown on the video that we are about to see. The deputy knocked on the correct door. He did not cover the peephole or otherwise obscure its view in any way.
Aiden said the deputy was placed on administrative leave amid an investigation into the incident.
Britain's economy grew by the most in nearly 3 years in the first quarter of 2024, ending the shallow recession it entered in the second half of last year and delivering a boost to Prime Minister Rishi Sunak ahead of an election.
Britain's economy grew by the most in nearly 3 years in the first quarter of 2024. It brought an end to the shallow recession it entered in the second half of last year and beat analyst forecasts. Official data said gross domestic product expanded by 0.6% in the 3 months to March. That was the strongest expansion since the fourth quarter of 2021, when it grew 1.5%. Friday's data was welcomed by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak ahead of an election. He said the economy had turned a corner. The opposition Labour Party accused Sunak of being out of touch and said it was not time for what they called a victory lap. On a monthly basis, the economy grew by 0.4% in March. That was faster than analyst forecasts and driven partly by fewer public sector strikes. Data showed car manufacturing performed well, but was offset by continued weakness in construction. Friday's data also declared GDP in March was 0.7% higher than a year earlier and above all economist expectations. However, Britain has still had one of the slowest recoveries from the effects of the global health crisis. The country's economy was just 1.7% bigger than its level in late 2019 at the end of the first quarter of 2024. Only Germany among the G7 had performed worse.
South Africa's highest court commenced hearings regarding former President Jacob Zuma's eligibility to run for parliament, a case with significant implications for the upcoming national election on the 29th of May. Zuma, who's 82 years old, ousted from the presidency in 2018 and later sentenced to jail in 2021, has clashed with the ruling African National Congress and is now backing a new party, Umkhonto we Sizwe. The Electoral Commission's decision to disqualify Zuma from running due to his prison sentence of 12 months or longer has sparked legal debate, especially as polls indicate a potential shift in power away from the ANC after 3 decades. Zuma's involvement with Umkhonto we Sizwe could influence the party's appeal, particularly in his home province of KwaZulu-Natal, where he enjoys considerable support. We'll take a quick break now. Be right back with lots more on the other side. Stay with us.
The football is mother of all games.
It is a team sport.
The leadership attitude is taking the ownership.
It's always a big responsibility to take decisions and the right decisions.
I always question the stereotypical.
And that's why you are in that position.
This and more. Streaming on News9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
There's a new video around what deepfake can do.
We have seen a trailer of this a few days back.
Rumors should not be only on the platform.
We'll have to wait and see how those play out.
Hindenburg's report cannot be taken as gospel of truth.
I try and convert almost everything in a kind of a mathematical formula.
You should always stretch more than you can reach.
Listening is very important.
Because if you don't listen, how would you know what the problem is?
Everybody who's working in and around me, their personal well-being is also a responsibility that I carry.
Great leaders have shared vision.
This and more. Streaming on News9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Welcome back. Protesters opposed to expansion of US electric vehicle maker Tesla's plant near Berlin clashed with police as some of them attempted to storm the facility. More in this report.
Protesters in Germany tried to storm a Tesla plant near Berlin on Friday. The demonstrators are opposed to the expansion of the US electric vehicle maker's facility there. Some tried to get at the plant from a nearby wooded area, with police trying to stop them, at times with force. About 800 people took part, according to the organizing group called Disrupt Tesla. It says expansion of the plant would damage the environment, not only in Germany, but also in countries such as Argentina or Bolivia, where lithium is mined as a key resource for EV batteries. We are here to draw attention to the Tesla factory in Grünheide, said spokesperson Ole Becker. He says the group also wants to see free public transportation and to shift the focus away from cars in general. Police say protesters did not actually make it inside the plant premises. Several people were taken into custody, and police received a few reports of injuries. Tesla CEO Elon Musk appeared unimpressed, writing on social media, "Why do the police let the left-wing protesters off so easily?" Police spokesperson Mario Heinemann said police protect freedom of assembly, but intervene when necessary. The plant has been the focus of environmental protests since it was launched by Musk 2 years ago. In March, a suspected arson attack nearby left it without power, halting work there.
A UK toddler has regained her hearing after undergoing breakthrough gene therapy. Her parents, Joe and James Sandy, say Opal can hear soft sounds through the pioneering treatment, which can be used to help other children who have hearing loss through genetic conditions.
Banging on blocks and playing the flute, Opal Sandy looks like an average energetic toddler. It would be hard to tell she was born deaf and unable to hear just months earlier. She's the first patient in England to regain her hearing through gene therapy.
That was 24 weeks post-surgery, and we heard the phrase near normal hearing. She was turning to really soft sounds.
Yeah, they played us the sounds that she was turning to, and we were quite mind blown by how soft it was, how quiet it was. Like they're sounds that I think in day-to-day life you might not even notice yourself, sort of thing.
Opal received treatment as part of a groundbreaking global gene therapy trial, which doctors say can combat various genetic conditions that cause hearing loss in children.
We can start to use gene therapy in young children, restore hearing for a variety of different kinds of genetic hearing loss, and then have a more one-and-done type approach where we actually restore the hearing. They don't have to have cochlear implants and other technologies that have to be replaced.
Opal's parents have described the results as mind-blowing.
I think we'd been given a really unique opportunity with no real evidence that any harm or adverse effects was likely to come to her. And I think a lot of parents, regardless of their difficulties their children face, to be given an opportunity to potentially make obstacles easier for her to overcome was a risk definitely worth taking.
Giant blue-gray sei whales that vanished from Argentina's Patagonian coast a century ago due to hunting are starting to flourish once again, demonstrating how species can recover when measures to protect them are put in place.
After vanishing more than a century ago, giant blue-gray sei whales are being spotted again off Argentina's Patagonian coast. The species was relentlessly hunted in the 1920s and 30s, but in the last 50 years, global bans on commercial whaling have helped them bounce back. Biologists call the comeback a global conservation success, but urge countries to protect whale moratoriums. Biologist Mariano Coscarella leads research project Proyecto Sei. The team has fit satellite trackers on some sei whales to map their migration patterns. Coscarella says it's taken decades for numbers to recover to an amount where the whales can be sighted again, which only started in recent years.
Pero lo que hay que tener en cuenta con estas especies es que son especies.
What you have to bear in mind with this species is that they are a migrant species and swim for long journeys. So even though the species is seen in a country's jurisdictional waters, it impacts the regions where the species is found as it moves around.
Porque se mueve.
In the case of the sei whale, which we're studying, populations are starting to bounce back as the moratorium is still in force.
Moratoria en vigencia.
But he adds, if countries start to withdraw from whale moratoriums, hunting may start again, and that could lead to a delay of their recovery.
Y esto, digamos, es para mí
It is a message of hope in the sense that when we all reach an agreement and protect the species, and we understand exploitation can't be infinite nor Olympic, we can be successful in the recovery of these species.
Podemos tener éxito en la recuperación de estas especies en su estado silvestre.
The Japanese government announced on May 9th that it would add large fin whales to its list of commercial whaling species, which includes the sei. The news comes 5 years after Japan left the International Whaling Commission, a global body that regulates the commercial hunt of marine mammals.
At least 50 people lost their lives while more than 100 were injured in Afghanistan in flooding following heavy rains in the northern province of Baghlan on Friday. Ministry of the Interior spokesperson said death toll may rise. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of the Bulletin. Thank you very much for watching. News and updates continue on the other side. Stay with us.
America, there is an inheritance tax. In India, you don't